学の暴走が生んだゴジラ。お前はなぜ現れるんだ？
人間が生み出してしまった怪獣。
ゴジラは俺たちの中にいるんだ。あれ。
And I want to say this, I think it's very simple. We do not have the TV show, or anything animated or TV or episodic gets its own list.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough to me.
Yeah, because I didn't even those 3 anime movies. It's one big story. I don't think they deserve to be on the list.
Better to handle the animated stuff in its own thing.
Again, we'll tack on our thoughts onto at the end of here, because obviously this will be releasing after all of those. But you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, wow, am I exhausted after all of that?
No, yeah, me too. It's just like, it's the good kind of exhausted, but it's still exhausted.
Yeah, now get this clear. We've gone through majority of everything by the time we're recording this. We have not done 98 or anything of the anime related stuff. We will, and we'll add addendums to those at the end, but for the most part, 98 aside, and we're going to guesstimate where we'll put it. We'll let you guys know in either a little text at the bottom or something if we're wrong and where we put it. But, yeah, we're going to guesstimate where we put 98, but for the most part, this is everything live-action Japanese we're going to be talking about here. And, okay, tell me where you sat before we started this marathon, even after the Monsterverse stuff we did.
What do you mean by that?
Where were you as knowing about Godzilla? You became a Gamera fan with and kaiju and everything, but now that you've seen everything with Godzilla, where do you stand in Big G? You see the appeal and everything?
Oh yeah, I definitely see why he's the king.
Yep, and why he's lasted so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because beforehand, I mean, you just knew about it, like a lot of people. You just knew, it's like...
Yeah, I just knew that he was a big nuclear dinosaur and that he had a bunch of corny movies, and occasionally I'd see my cousins watching them, or I'd see other friends who like it making posts about it that I basically only barely understood anything about.
But now you completely understand.
Oh, yes.
Yep, now you completely understand, and you can see, yeah, again, the appeal and everything, and it's, just what, and because it's one thing when you get, I think it's a good thing I started you on Gamera.
Mm-hmm.
Give you the, how can I describe with Gamera? The B team. No, not the B team.
Yeah,
the runner-up.
The words of my usual DM from D&D and say, it's Godzilla if they didn't give a shit at all while making it.
I'd argue that, because given I was the same director for all but one of those movies, but I get what you mean. I mean, of the Showa ones, anyway. And then you had the Heisei, same director, and then the Brave, one director. But still, I get what you mean.
Yeah, where it's just like, we're just going to make kooky monster movies. We're not going to try to make them too terribly deep.
Definitely, but... Again, except for Heisei, but that was a little too deep if you ask me. But yeah, though, but... The funny thing about Godzilla is he's gone beyond his original intent. His original, he's a metaphor. And he still is, but he's gone well and beyond it, wouldn't you say?
Uh-huh.
And the cast of monsters. Now, granted, a lot of these wouldn't have come about if they didn't put Godzilla on ice after Raids Again and then build up their own Monsterverse beforehand. But boy, do they interact well.
Oh yeah, it's just like, hey, you sort of have a feeling of this world where it's sort of like a modern mythology, really, where you've got your own, like, big mystical creatures and monsters and whatever have you. It's just like, you had like the big monsters and all of like the myths of the past, and now we're still making those monsters today. It's just that it's sometimes a little bit hard to see it like it's sort of mythological kind of thing just because it isn't set several centuries in the past.
Exactly. I know that the Toho-verse was around well before the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we should talk a little bit about each of the characters and just look at all of their incarnations. You know, I'm just saying talk about them in general. Like, we'll say Big G for last. So, Rodan. Unfortunately, I gotta say Rodan he's had some good movies. But
but whenever he shows up, he kind of just feels like he's on the B team.
Exactly. I always feel like he's that jock who feels like I'm the big shit when he's really not.
Yeah, or it's just like he talks a big game, but he goes down in a couple of punches.
Or he decides to backstab and take on the other side just because he's the Starscream sometimes.
Uh-huh.
You know, from Transformers, the whole like...
Yeah, I'm familiar with that from TV tropes.
Yep. And boy, nothing got shown better than that than the Monsterverse King of the Monsters.
Oh yeah, he was kind of a sniveling prick, really.
Now, I would still say though the best version has to be the Heisei version. But even then, he didn't have much, to do.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, he's not bad, it's just underutilized.
Exactly. But he's a lot more utilized than he was throughout most of Showa outside of his own movie, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and maybe Astro Monster.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear my echo, by the way. I already heard an echo, so... But yeah, though, I mean, so Rodan, I do feel he's a bit overdone. Now, Anguirus, on the other hand...
Anguirus deserves a lot better. He deserves to be better than just a punching bag. He was Godzilla's original, bro.
Yep. And a little corrected to the point we made in a video once, and we didn't point out in Final Wars. He does appear in Final Wars. He puts up a better fight than others, but unfortunately...
It's just like...
He deserves more love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, he's a spiky turtle.
Yeah, he's a spiky turtle. That's cool. Why
exactly.
Don't you more with that?
Now, the queen of the monsters, Mothra. Your girl.
Oh yeah, my girl. I ended up really liking her. That were just sort of throughout all of her various incarnations throughout the eras.
To the point where
I do, of course, like I said before, I basically had to go in with the expectation that she's probably gonna die somehow during this movie.
Usually doing a heroic
sacrifice. By
sacrifice.
sacrificing herself for some greater good.
Yep, either to stop Godzilla or to protect her baby or whatever, or help Godzilla even. But yeah, either way, Masra always dies. Except once! But that's because Batra took the kill for her. I bet you Batra wasn't there.
You gotta love him.
Yep, but Masra, the Cosmos, the twins, and now she's always a badass. Even at her fluffiest, she's still a badass.
Oh yeah, she's the proof that you don't have to. She's the proof that being pretty and being badass and also being kind don't have to conflict.
And that's the other thing, sometimes good isn't always nice, and she definitely shows that sometimes.
Yeah, where it's just like, hey, if the humans are messing something up, she's not afraid to put down an ultimatum for them to correct their behavior.
Even as a worm, she could be dangerous when ticked off, as we saw in the Heisei movie.
Mm-hmm.
She just plowed right through Tokyo trying to get to the Cosmos and not give a damn. And, the Cosmos. They're always hit and miss, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's just like, sometimes they're just kind of sometimes they're
their first appearance was fine, even in Godzilla versus Masra, the original. But then any other ones up until the Heisei was meh. And throughout the Millennium, when they did appear, meh. But I did like in the Monsterverse, they actually had to be instead, they were actual twins, the scientists. They were never tied directly to Masra, but if you ever see a photo of their family, they're from a family of everyone's twins. Their mother was twins, their grandmother was twins. They have twins.
Yeah.
It's like every woman in that family is guaranteed to have a twin. That's always kind of funny when you look at things about stuff like that, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
big family.
Friends and families.
Yep, but then also the big rival, King Ghidorah. He deserves it, but at the same time he doesn't.
Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, it's pretty great, but there are a lot of moves, but I feel like half the time they just kind of drop the ball on his potential.
I think the reason why he's so remembered is because he appeared so much. Not that he was actually effective. I think that's where it came from. Because the most effective he was his first appearance. Maybe Astro Monster to a degree, but afterwards, like Destroy All Monsters, what was the point? He got curb stomped.
Uh-huh.
And then Gigan?
Why is he even in this movie? He sidelined the title character, and not even for a good reason.
Yeah, and good God, that suit, I'm still gonna say that was the worst suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, how the neck was just so stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once he came back in the Heisei, that was an interesting take on him.
Uh-huh.
Not the best take.
But interesting and different.
And then his two appearances during the Millennium. I mean, GMK, that was a nice twist, him being a good guy and him actually being a woken up way too early Orochi.
Uh-huh. Tying that back into Japanese mythology. I always like those little cultural nods in the movies.
Exactly, and giving him two forms. One that's more, again, a base, rough form, and then a golden form.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Final Wars. Or, let's tack him on there so he can be the final opponent.
Yeah, the final opponent of Godzilla's boss rush.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It does make sense.
But he's underutilized.
Exactly, so... And then there's, of course, King of the Monsters. Have we praised it enough?
Uh-huh.
That is the best version of him, bar none.
Yeah, that is who Ghidorah was supposed to be all along.
Exactly. A usurper, a evil space invader.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's around, you're like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I am grateful for that. Next, the top dog, and even though he's always been recreated every time, Mecha G. Now, we already did a retrospective on that, so we're not going to go too much into it, but still, there's a reason why we love Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, I don't think that it's possible to screw up a Mechagodzilla movie at this point.
Not at all. They're all really good. They're all awesome. And Mechagodzilla in all of them is always a badass. He might always come back with a bit, like, looking back on Terra Mechagodzilla, Mechagodzilla was actually kind of weaker in that one when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he made up for it with, the new attack under his head and Titanosaurus and everything. But still, though, either way, he's still a very dangerous threat, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, actually, nope, we have one more. Any of the infants, Minya or Baby. First of all, let's agree. At first you tolerated Minya. Where do you stand on Minya now?
It sort of feels like the annoying kid, but in monster form.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can still accept the best of him was in, well, obviously his two of his three appearances were good, but not great. And Revenge, unfortunately, taints it. Sorry. You were about to say something. What were you going to say?
I actually forgot.
As I said, he had two appearances that were pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, Revenge had to taint it.
Oh, yes.
Irrevocably. And for Godzilla says I should fight my own battles. Ugh. But let's be honest, though, he pales compared to Baby, Little, and Junior. It's like, we're watching him grow up. We love him.
He's a very key part of the story.
Exactly. Everything changed once he came about. Everything. Mickey changed, Godzilla changed, everything changed. Plus, he had a much better early developed fire attack with the bubbles. Or fireworks.
Yeah, those were cute.
As opposed to a puff ring that's completely ineffective, except for taking down that 1 final % for Ghidorah and Destroy All Monsters. That's the only time it was pretty cool, wasn't it? The but yeah, and then Minya in Final Wars just waddled around.
He was just kind of there.
Didn't do much at all.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, there's not really much to say about him since he was barely in the movie.
Exactly. But yeah, now goes Big G himself. Now, this is a tale of multiple Godzillas, obviously. Now Showa was good to a point. I will be honest on that one. And
Like, it got the ball rolling, but then it got a bit downhill.
It got silly. Now, granted, really when you think about it, there's only 2 of them that are really bad, but they are so bad
that it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Exactly. I know people like those rope smog monsters in there, and it didn't help at all. But it was still a good movie. But Gigan and Megalon, there's a reason why, unfortunately, it did so much damage that by the time of Terror Mechagodzilla, which I still say is a crime, that it's the lowest of the box office. To this day, it's still, even with inflation, it's still the lowest. I mean, good God, it was a good movie. It was not meant to be. It wasn't
appreciated at its time.
Nowadays it is. But yeah, but Showa, I think obviously Showa was needed to build the brand. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, where it's just like, we're kind of throwing a bunch of spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks, what people like.
Exactly. But it was when we got the high side that we got the good storytelling.
Yeah, where it's just like, okay, now we actually have a base of lore to work from. Let's actually refine it into something that's good. Yep.
Interesting note about Biollante, by the way. Even the script was actually written by a fan as part of a contest.
Huh!
Yeah. Now
that's the trend of stuff made by fans tends to kick ass.
Exactly. And, but yeah, the entire lore, everything built to that logical point. Even with Space Godzilla being a bit of a sidestep a bit, but that's what it was. It was a sidestep. It wasn't a step down. It was a sidestep that we needed. Because seriously, if it was just as dark as Mechagodzilla, we would have been depressed.
Yeah, where it's just as, here, let's go for something that's a little bit lighter and softer, where things maybe are a little bit more like in black and white kind of territory.
But still do it with a higher budget. But not too high. Again, those asteroids.
Yeah.
Then Millennium. That's a bunch of Godzillas just rolled into one.
Yeah, that's just kind of a case. I feel like it's the Millennium Era is more of a series of one-shot fanfic, but by comparison.
With the exception of Kiro being a 2-parter.
That's the one-shot that became a 2-shot by accident because it became too long.
But now, I still say GMK was the one that really, it did so well because of that. Because he could do what you want. Okay, I want Godzilla to be actually part spiritual. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like, it did have a lot of creative freedom at the detriment of its own consistency.
And Mechagodzilla as well, that one they really saw it, but compared to GMK though, they didn't go enough if you ask me. When you compare to GMK, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I still like Mechagodzilla, and I know you love it. But you gotta admit, they could have done a little bit more with that alternate universe. But, and then you have Showa is the Shin is its own thing right now. They haven't done any more movies, so skipping that one. The Monsterverse is a perfect blend.
Let's take a little bit from column A of serious, higher themes, and a little bit of column B with corny and awesome monster fights.
And Godzilla being you could say they took from the Showa. I still say they took from Gamera instead.
But not in a bad way. They made it make sense in universe.
Yeah, well, I mean the high side Gamera. He's more like Gamera from Attack on Legion.
Oh yeah.
Where he's helping, he's helpful, but he's not guaranteed. Which is actually funny then, because then, given how he acts in Godzilla vs. Kong, it's almost how Gamera was in Iris.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that till right now, did you?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, he's been in King of the Monsters. He's helping us out. We're actually working alongside him. Next one, what the hell? Why is he attacking? Why is he being so reckless?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I know we talked about a bit in the Heisei stuff, but it deserves being brought up again on a bigger scale. Godzilla versus Gamera.
Mm-hmm.
Who wins? Godzilla, right?
Yeah, it's not even really a contest. I think what's needed is someone needs to dust off Gamera and put more of a spit and polish on him, because there's potential there. You can't deny that there is a lot of potential with Gamera, it's just gone unused and unrealized.
Exactly. Although, unfortunately, I do think Gamera still has a bit of the taint of his Showa stuff that's going to cause people to want to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know people love the Heisei ones, but let's be honest. Some people are want to go back and have it be, oh, we still need to have kids involved. No, you don't.
No, you really don't.
That's something Godzilla did right. We didn't have an Ichi except once.
Yeah, it's just like a singular one.
Yeah, now, because even then, we did have a kid who was in Smog Monster, but he was a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, Revenge is the only one where we had an Ichi.
Mm-hmm.
Or Kenny, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
But now, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Our list.
Oh boy, and it's a long list.
Yep, we're going to go from bottom to top. The absolute worst, of course, Godzilla's Revenge.
Oh yes.
But I will make a little addendum. We found out recently that it's actually not set in the Showaverse. It's set in the real world, where the monsters don't exist.
That's really a surprise.
Yeah, where the monsters don't exist, that they're all in the kid's imagination, always were. To which I'm like, okay, that doesn't salvage it, but that does explain why this is Hondo's favorite. Because if he's looking at like it's a separate movie and set in a separate reality, I can see why he loves this so much.
It's just definitely not our thing, big time.
Definitely not. Big time, you're right, definitely big time, but still though, it is, I can't even give anything good about it.
Yeah.
Can you? Besides Gabba.
Yeah, I'm really struggling to think of anything.
Next, Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, or Ebera the Sea Monster. This was meant to be a Kong movie. It goes
so badly.
The monster itself is more of a Kong monster. A giant lobster.
Mm-hmm.
And Godzilla falling in love?
That's just... No.
And now that you've seen all the movies, Godzilla's never fallen in love. Ever.
Yeah.
Maybe Mothra.
Sort of, in a way.
I'd ship them. King and Queen.
Why people would, but it's not required.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, no. King and Queen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. I'm saying that's a joke. But a human woman. No.
Yeah, it's just no.
Just no. And again, monster. The only other time we had a full-grown monster in the Godzilla movies, and it amounted to nothing in the end.
Yeah, it's just like. It's hardly even counted as a real appearance, or it's just like, yeah, she lived, but she also didn't do much of literally anything.
Not even, yeah, exactly. And sometimes I wonder, I question the canonicity of it.
It's just like, yeah.
Gigan is next.
Mm-hmm.
And it says a lot that Megalon is going to be a bit higher on the list, isn't it?
Yeah!
Now, nothing against Gigan himself. Gigan's awesome!
It's just that he was criminally underused here.
Yep, and we had more alien invaders, cockroaches. Again, the worst King Ghidorah appearance, period.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, Godzilla and Anguirus talking.
For no absolutely no reason.
And in Japan, it would have been speech bubbles instead, but that still would have been dumb.
Yeah.
You have unneeded gore with Anguirus stupidly running into Gigan's buzzsaw chest. Seriously, what the hell, dude?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, no. Oh. And then we say, like, oh, wait, is that blood? Is that blood? Why do we need that blood? Why do we need...
Gratuitous at that point.
Ugh. And by the way, Gigan was handled best here than he would be in Megalon.
Mm-hmm.
But now, we're past now the point of no return. Going into Raids again, next one, we're comparing them to the others. Megalon will justify why we have it up this high, but next it's Raids again, or the sophomore slump.
Yeah, where it's like, this was literally the second movie.
And they
had a hit, and they were trying to figure things out, and like you do, you make a couple mistakes along the way.
Gamera had a better second outing.
Oh yeah, definitely, but this was like when monster movies like this were still being codified, like for the first time, really.
And Anguirus was fine.
In uncharted territory trying to figure it out. You can't really blame them if not everything is going to connect together so well.
And keep in mind, we're not judging it off of the American version where it's Gigantus or whatever. We're not even, that's not even taken into account. It's just at a plot itself. Anguirus is fine. I like that we actually got the first monster mash out of this, but they just did not know what they were doing at all. They just were
the other
wondering.
movies don't have that excuse, mostly because, yeah, they did have a bit more experience, but here, they were still figuring it out.
And to be fair, we are raising this up from what we did in our Showa Respective. We kind of unfairly put it too far low.
Because it's just like, it's not bad, it's just flawed.
Definitely.
Perfect, unpolished.
Yep. Next, it's Invasion of the Astro Monster. Another thing we have to disagree with, a lot of people say they prefer this over Ghidorah's Reiwa Monster. Where do you see how high up that is on our list compared to this? This was, in our opinion, Ghidorah's Reiwa Monster given a higher budget, and they overshot. No Mothra, but we still got Godzilla and Rodan, and we got introduced to the alien invader plot.
That they basically felt like half of the Showa movies running off of that plot. I can't tell if they just really, really, really liked that plot, or if it was just basically the cheap stock plot they went to when they were out of ideas.
Who can say? At least they changed it each time, at least.
Yeah.
You know, where they're from. I will give them that. You had counter-Earths, you had a black hole, you had cockroaches, you had from underwater. You know, things like that. But here, and Ghidorah is mind-controlled. Why? Why, oh why did he have to be mind-controlled?
Was that really necessary?
Probably one of the better times where he was mind-controlled, at least until we got to Heisei. But, moving on. Godzilla versus Megalon. See, it's not that much higher up.
Yeah!
This one we got a bit more because Megalon was an interesting design. The human plot and the source of the villains wasn't bad. You know, dealing with the oceans. It
had a good setup, it just kind of fell off in the second half.
And Jet Jaguar! Gotta love Jet Jaguar, right? I know, he could be a bit weird, but come on, that song is good.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yep, and Gigan showing up made a little bit more sense than Ghidorah showing up in his movie.
At least it don't do much with him, but at least it makes more sense.
Even though he's nowhere near as malicious, he's just, you know what I mean? But yeah, this one, it's only slightly above the others. Next, Son of Godzilla. This one, it's so good, but
it's
compared,
kinda...
and we liked it back when we saw it when it was just a show up. But now that we've seen all the stuff in the Heisei,
yeah, they do so much better there.
Now, there's still good stuff in here, like Godzilla learning to become a parent even though he doesn't want to. Unlike Heisei, where he actually does. Here, he doesn't at all. But, and this is definitely one of the ones that until we got to the Heisei, where we actually got into the monsters' heads. You know what I mean? Where we're like...
Where they stop becoming, like, walking metaphors or basically spectacle and start becoming, like, actual characters.
Exactly. Like, especially, like, when the moment when Godzilla is comforting, Minya. Of course, that's a stem shot they would use later in Space Godzilla. Which I liked. You know, that's the old, like, sheltering him and everything.
Yeah.
So this one is good, but when you compare it to the Heisei, we couldn't raise it any higher, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Now, just to get out of the way, we're not going to give our thoughts on it. This is the point where we think 98 would go. We haven't seen it yet. Oh, I have. She hasn't. But my guess is it's going to be this low. Maybe lower, maybe higher. I'll put a words down at the bottom and you'll see it. But after that, and we'll make an addendum later with our thoughts at the end. But next, Final Wars. Okay, we said at the start of this we were exhausted in a good way. We were exhausted in a bad way here.
There was just way too much they put into this movie that it was hard to really follow anything at all.
Definitely. It was like destroy all monsters on steroids. How do you do it on steroids? You make it a summer blockbuster, including the humans in the action. Not that it's a bad thing. I'm glad we actually got the humans in the action, but not this much. Not enough that it takes away from the monster plot.
Indeed.
You put it best. This is a boss rush.
Yeah, it was Godzilla's boss rush.
But Godzilla is at that OP status you get at the start of an RPG. Because he was way too powerful, wouldn't you say? He was just like, boom, boom. Now, the only time that was good was against Zilla, of course. But everyone else, like Hedorah, barely had anything to do. When Hedorah gets taken down with Ebera, you know something's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, we had to end, and Masra shows up, dies.
Yeah.
And then King Ghidorah, final boss, shoehorned. This was, I think, the weakest of the send-offs. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Next, Godzilla versus King Kong. Now, I know some people might want to argue this. In our eyes, this is good, but it's not the classic because the later Showas outdid it. It set a lot of standards. It's very easy to remember, but it's not that great.
Yeah, it was more spectacle than anything else.
Which makes sense. You know, it's Godzilla's big return. They're going to do stuff with King Kong. It should be a spectacle, but Godzilla vs. Kong was a spectacle, and that had a much better story and everything. Here, and also the natives. I'm sorry, Japanese doing blackface.
Yeah, that just does not age very well.
The music was great.
Which way you slice it.
The music was great. Ikafube's score was great. But otherwise, and then Kong looks like roadkill. The fight is good, but at the same time, it's also goofy and silly. And again, we're glad it exists. It deserves to be on this list, but not that high, I'm afraid. Not in hindsight, not looking back on it. Next, it's Godzilla 2014. This is, as far as the first movies of a franchise, it's the weakest.
Oh, definitely.
By comparison, no. It was still, when you compare it to 98, it is Shakespeare compared to 98.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because at least it's faithful to the character. But I think Garth Edwards was being a little too artsy with it.
Yeah.
Which he usually does. I mean, aside from Rogue One, if you ever see the movie Monster, he was very artsy. Of course, that's what got him the job in directing in the first place. But still, it was just so like, and we're going to do these bottom shots and everything. We're going to keep on cutting away from the action so we can build it. Everything with the monsters when we saw it was the best stuff. Bryan Cranston was the best part of the human stuff. Shirazawa was good, but then after that, everything else was... Again, not shit. We've seen a lot
That's
worse
kinda
human plots.
okay.
Unforgettable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's this low on the list. It was a great, though, introduction of the Monsterverse. I will give it that.
Mm-hmm.
We needed it. But, yeah. And after this, Shin Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
This, similar, but it's still better than 2014. But it's similar in that not that much Godzilla for one.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say?
I was an interesting look into like stuff into more modern Japan, and it's sort of like, yeah, it's a little bit more grounded in my own experience, but at the same time, you choke in the red tape along with the characters the whole time, where it leans on the realism almost too heavily.
And Godzilla is way too different. I mean, I like it. It's fine for one movie. This better not come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too OP. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, that was part of the point, but also just the fact he's not a giant lizard.
Mm-hmm.
Bothers me. Does it bother you?
Well, now that you mention it.
Yeah, because, I mean, I get it. It's the whole idea of this thing's with the hyper-evolving itself.
Mm-hmm.
But, and come on, that googly-eyed form.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, but for being Japan's first movie in 10 years and trying something very different, they did an amazing job. Just not the greatest for American. In Japan, probably one of their best.
Mm-hmm.
But here in the States...
Some stuff gets lost in translation, inevitably.
Exactly. After this, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
Oh yeah, his first appearance on the scene.
And where he's the most evil as he would be in the Showa Era, effective, you had Godzilla and Masra, Worm Masra, and Rodan, and I would say this, that's the only time where I can accept Godzilla and we get to know what Godzilla is saying, because you have the Cosmos translating it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, Godzilla, what terrible language! I love that bit, that's one of my favorite lines.
I can imagine Godzilla cursing up a storm, can't you?
Yep. I was like, hey, shut up, you little, saying that to Rodan and all that. And this was the first actual monster crossover. Why did it still have to be Worm Masra? Why couldn't she turn into full-grown Masra?
Yeah.
But Ghidorah was awesome. The human stuff actually was alright. This was a great introduction to Godzilla's arch rival.
Mm-hmm.
What else more can we say, hun?
Not really.
Well, one more thing. Sad that we found out that the Masra's twin died.
Yeah.
But really, you only needed one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the fact that Godzilla didn't seem to care until Masra and Ghidorah attacked Masra. I think that was the stepping point of Godzilla becoming at least an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. Because it's just like,
hey, leave the kid alone!
Mm-hmm. Where it's just like, look, I'm not great, but that's
evil!
Mm-hmm.
After this, it's the weakest of the Heisei. But even then, like we said, not that bad. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want to say about this one? Why do you think this is a good spot for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the closest to a Showa movie that Heisei did.
Mm-hmm.
And now Space Godzilla is one of the best monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But he needed a better movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this, the monster stuff is top tier. It's unfortunately the human stuff that drags it down. And what makes it more painful is that it's Mickey that pulls it down.
Yeah.
How can you do that to the girl? How can you do that to the girl?
Mm-hmm.
And some contrivances and all that. Mogera's alright.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing compared to Mechagodzilla, of course, which is the point.
Mm-hmm.
But but again, like we said before, this is still compared to the other Heisei. But if we had to compare it to all the other movies, this is where we would put it on the list. There's a couple of other shows that do better. Such as our next one, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Oh yeah, this one was the good trip.
Yeah, this is the one where you think like, I mean, again, it has issues, but it's shot so well it makes up for those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And has one of the highest body counts until GMK.
Oh, yeah.
In this one, I mean, you actually saw people die and turn to skeletons. I mean, yay! And again, there's just so much in this movie. Like, one of the best monsters. I think Hedorah is one of the best.
Oh, yeah, so many different forms, and it presents a... I mean, he does definitely a walking metaphor, but it's a walking metaphor that makes a whole damn lot of sense.
And the fact that he no-sells the heat breath. He completely no-sells it.
Mm-hmm.
What other monster can no-sell the heat breath without having some added stuff to it like Mechagodzilla and the Heisei?
Mm-hmm.
No one that I can think of. And the fact that Godzilla, Godzilla, okay, aside from that, something you don't see every day, Godzilla is very good in this one. Yes, he's being a hero, but it's for a case of like, hey, it's my planet too, bitch.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this deserves to be on this part of the list. Don't you think? Like, we're around the halfway point, I think.
Yeah, we're starting to cross the threshold from just okay to really great.
Yep. Next, it's Godzilla 2000. Now, this was a good starting point for the Millennium.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after 98. It's like there was no way you were top versus Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
But here, again, it's not the worst of the Millennium. It's obviously one of the lower tier ones by comparison, but it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like a Showa through the Heisei filter, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
But what issues did you have with it that brings it down? I thought the human plot was actually good too, the Godzilla chasers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those elements were kind of interesting. I think it's just a case of... Yeah, it just felt kind of bland at parts.
It did. I mean, Orga was fine, but...
We've had more interesting alien invaders.
Exactly, and now granted, again, the human plot was not bad, and we had some really good, memorable characters. Like the dad being played by the guy who would be in Godzilla and Masra. Although, I've seen there's a little bit of Godzilla in all of us, which actually is in the Japanese. What the heck?
Yeah, that was just straight out of nowhere.
But of course, we have the ever famous Godzilla! Before he dies!
Mm-hmm.
But then it ends on such a downer note as Godzilla just tramps through Tokyo and no one stops him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is this the end of the world then?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we never know. And if it is, it puts everything, any of the sillier parts, in a bad light.
Yeah.
But next on our list, it's the original Godzilla vs. Mothra. And, yep, or Godzilla vs. The Thing. Remember the poster I showed you?
Oh yeah, the false advertising, the very blatant false advertising.
Definitely, but here though, your girl, your first time seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
And it would set the standard for all of her future appearances. And I warned you about that. I did warn you about that when we first saw it.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't realize how much I was right, did you?
Yeah, I didn't realize how that would basically be the plot for nearly every movie she'd be in.
Exactly. Basically, Godzilla shows up, Masra is found, she has an egg, and she fights Godzilla, she dies, and then the egg hatches. Sometimes the baby turns into full grown, other times it just stays a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But here at least it's twins, and they put up a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cosmos are fine, and it's really good. It set a good high mark initially, but now looking back and comparing to the others, it's standard.
Yeah.
Like, compared to a lot of the other ones, it is standard, and unfortunately because it set that trend, it takes it down a peg a little, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But Masra is always going to be your girl.
Oh yeah.
And definitely one of the better Godzilla suits for the Showa era, I think. In fact, yeah, Godzilla coming out of the ground, that was a weird but one of memorable intro, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Next, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, the first part of the Kiru duology. Now, just to make it out of the way, we love Kiro as a monster, as a Mechagodzilla. This, and I'll just say it, the very next one is Tokyo SOS. Let's just talk about both of them. These are the weaker of the Mechagodzilla ones as far as the movies themselves go. And not that there's anything against them, but when you compare them to the other Mechagodzilla appearances, these ones they have something original, building around the bones, but they don't utilize it that much. You have Kiro go out of control once, and then you have this is part of the reason why Masra comes after them in the next one, but really, it feels like, we're going to keep on fighting, and then we're going to just come to a stalemate. I think that's the problem. How much of it is a stalemate, and they wanted to stretch the storytelling out. Would you agree with that? It felt like they were like, we can't win. We can't win yet. We can't win yet. Yeah. And then Tokyo SOS, it was like, let's remake the original Mechagodzilla versus Mechagodzilla, but replace Caesar with Mothra, and then rehash her plot.
Yeah.
Now Kiro seems to get a better victory and all that, and all that, but still, I mean, again, Kiro is an amazing Mechagodzilla. There's no question, but he deserved better. I think there's a reason why they decided after these movies to put him on ice with Final Wars, don't you think? I mean, I can see why people love the movies, but compared to the other Mechagodzillas, they are subpar. Again, Kiro is amazing, and these are still entertaining. We're still in that entertaining phase, at least. They're not at the bottom of the list. But, yeah, I think we're talking about... Oh, wait! I totally skipped one!
Oh!
Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah from the Heisei Era!
Oh, yeah!
You know what, actually, now that I think about it, bump it above Tokyo SOS.
Yeah!
I think that's where it deserves to be, because that was good. Even though the time travel is a headache-inducing...
It was still not a bad concept.
Definitely not.
Explained.
And it set up a lot of stuff for the rest of the Heisei stuff that I don't think even they realized. It basically gave us the ending. Godzilla's not going to ever destroy Tokyo. Gee, wonder why. You had a very great... it was one of the better takes of the human villains. They weren't alien invaders, thank God.
They were people from the future who
were assholes.
Yeah, who were assholes and just... They wanted to be the top dogs, so they wanted to undermine them in the past.
And Wilson, I think, is the best human villain, period.
If not for just how much of a scumbag he is.
Especially even when he loses, he thinks like, we win! This Godzilla's unfriendly, and we'll wipe everything out! He's like, shut the fuck up! And the way he just rubs that stuff in, with Emmy basically being like, I said they would do something smart and intelligent, like create a new Godzilla. You're like, oh, screw you, dude. But the way he said it, he's like, But yeah, I mean, and again, he was still a great villain. And Ghidorah, great suit. And Mecha King Ghidorah. Oh, that was amazing. But definitely not the King's best outing. I mean, it's probably, actually, I would say it's his third best outing. It is his third best. Would you agree with that? Yeah. But again, and the fact that this gave us a nice backstory for Godzilla. It's just that if you take the movie at face value, you're going to confuse yourself. You got to actually realize the contradictions and characters being wrong, and then fill in the gaps yourself. Which a movie shouldn't do. But yeah, then after this one, it's Godzilla 1985. And
Start of the Heisei Era.
Start of the Heisei Era. The return of Raymond Burr as Mr. Martin. And Godzilla is back in an outfit that's still very Showa influenced. But his return, this was pretty damn good. Is it as effective as the original? Hell no. But it was still effective nonetheless.
Yeah.
They did some stuff that you don't think about, and it kind of felt like a deviation. Like the space, not the space, like the sea louse. The mutated sea louse. Kind of felt a little superfluous, but it kind of set up stuff for the next movie. Wouldn't you agree? You know, like how much Godzilla's blood could actually influence things?
Yeah.
But what would you say, though, like where this movie might have worked and didn't work?
I feel like on the human plot side, if we'd had just a bit more skepticism about it initially being Godzilla, and maybe not shoehorn so much of the Cold War stuff into the dub.
Yeah, but it was made during the Cold War too, so what do you expect, right? Because originally, in the original Japanese, it was supposed to be a case of let's unite against a common foe. In America, nope, Russia's bastards. But Raymond Burr made up for it. Thank God he convinced them, saying, keep it straight, don't make it a comedy. Because how the heck can you make a comedy out of this thing?
How do you make a comedy out of that? Unless it's a black comedy.
Oh, that's an extreme urban renewal program they have going on in Japan.
What the hell is that line?
That was the only line left from the comedy script. That tells you what they were going to go for. And I found out that people like Leonard Maltin gave this his lowest rated review. Why? It was too serious to be funny. You see the look at my face?
Yeah.
Dude, okay, I know the Showa was a lot of camp, but you really thought that's all Godzilla was? That hurt some of my respect for Maltin as a film critic. But now, overall, there is flaws with this movie. Like, Godzilla's a bit too animalistic, especially following the birds.
Oh, yeah.
That was dumb. And now, him against the Super X? Oh, I love that fight. But you also realize, compared to how he will be later in the Heisei, Godzilla's tiny.
Yeah.
It's like, why is he so small? I know the thing is going to be like, oh, buildings have gotten so much taller, but that doesn't stop him by the time we got to King Ghidorah, where he's like, huge! But overall, though, this was a great starting point, if you ask me, even with the Americanized version. So, yeah. Next, Godzilla, and your favorite Masra of the Masra ones, Godzilla and Masra Battle for Earth. The only one where she didn't die!
Yeah, but that's not the only reason why it's my favorite, though it certainly helps.
Okay, what is your other reasons? Go ahead.
Well, we get introduced to a really interesting foil, the edgelord with a heart of gold, Batra.
Definitely the dark Mothra, not evil Mothra. There was that distinction. Also one of the better Cosmos. We had some very good human characters like Misako and and her ex and everything. The only problem we had was the voice for the daughter. Good God, that voice was annoying. But yeah, they had some complicated stuff, and you could say, oh, it was heavy on the environmentalism. Not really when you think about it. Especially when you take into account that, oh, Masra and Batra was created to fight against the pollution. No, he wasn't! He was created to take
That's just what the Cosmos assumed, and they were wrong.
Yeah, he was created to take out an asteroid in 1999. I guess we dodged that bullet. But yeah, and Godzilla, he's just the generic. Now, be fair though, this is probably the part where Godzilla's the most superfluous when you think about it.
Yeah,
it's his movie. It's his movie. He's just the bad guy. It's all about Masra and Batra. And not saying that's a bad thing, but it does feel a little. I mean, the Showa would do that a bit more sometimes, but here it felt all right. Especially since it was meant to lead to a Masra spinoff anyway. So. But yeah, it was very good. And also the fluffiest Mothra.
Oh yes, the floof.
The floof. Cause she just look like a flying puffball.
Yeah.
Again, I don't personally like it. I know you do. I know you love it, but I just feel like it's too cutesy. If you know what I mean. I mean, granted, it makes her badassness even much more, better, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, then after this, it's Godzilla versus Kong. And what can we say about this, right?
Yeah, what can we say that we haven't already said?
Talk about a great finale for the Showaverse, right? Not the show, the Monsterverse, right? If this is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, though. So with this great Mechagodzilla, great Godzilla interactions, good Kong human plot, terrible Godzilla human plot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what else can we say? We've said enough about it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So heck, go check out our 1 hour long review on it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Godzilla versus Megagyrus.
Ooh!
This was a surprise, wasn't it?
This one was a surprise hit.
It definitely was. It's, but I mean, for one, it was it's an alternate universe. We know that much, and yeah. So I'm trying to say what you can go on ahead. You're the one who really liked this one.
Oh yeah, we had one of my new favorite gals, Major Kiriko.
Yep. And Megagyrus was a good monster. Not the best part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And well, what else can we say? The alternate universe stuff again could have been done better. It could have been done better.
But it was still interesting to see them trying something different.
Oh, definitely. It's so nice to see them do something very different. Having been, it is the same Godzilla from '54 that never died. Mm-hmm. How they never explain. I wish they did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you agree? And don't you wish they had continued? You know, they explained why.
Yeah.
Oh well, but yeah, and this one again, it was just such a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but after this one, it's got the Showa Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. This was fun.
Oh yes.
The first Mechagodzilla one, and a good, not a complete return to form for Godzilla, but a good lead into it.
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla's still the hero in this one, but it made more sense. In Mechagodzilla, boy, that reveal was a surprise, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, probably the best Mechagodzilla reveal that we had.
Definitely. And he just takes down Godzilla like that. And poor Anguirus again!
Yeah, they need to stop using him to just show how powerful the new monster of the movie is.
That's having his jaw ripped open! Having his jaw ripped open?
That's just painful.
I'm glad he survived, but I don't think he'll be able to eat again. Poor guy. But yeah, and then you had but yeah, so the music was fun, a bit jazzy.
Mm-hmm.
And the aliens, probably the best aliens of the Showa. The apes. Those damn dirty apes. Had to say it. But yeah, this was good. Of the two movies, it was the best fight.
Mm-hmm.
King Caesar, okay. Not gonna say any more about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we can say about this that we haven't already said in our review. Next, the original Godzilla, King of the Monster. Why is this so low on the list? Because its message is still good. The way it was all done is still good. It's just everything kind of improves on it.
Yeah,
everything going forward.
And you want to do better than the original.
Exactly, and this one, the ones that come after this point are we're coming into the high tier stuff going forward. Mm-hmm. Everything going forward is going to have either better human story, a better monster, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We are now going into the upper echelon. So if we're passing the original, that tells you where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now we still have memorable characters. Shirazawa, especially. Okay, he's the only memorable one besides Mr. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, and the Oxygen Destroyer. The question of, should you use this deadly device to take out something that's already deadly?
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Is the cure going to be worse than the disease?
Which is the same question that was probably asked when that's probably Japan saying, this is probably the same question that was asked about dropping the bomb on us to get us to stop. And when you see about it kind of is. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then, and the music was great, the suit was great, everything was so phenomenal for 1954.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, next, Godzilla versus Biollante. This was our high point for such a long while.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying it's got taken down a peg for other reasons, but when you compare it to the other ones, they just go above.
Mm-hmm.
But here, it's like, if there's one thing I'll take away from it, Biollante barely factors into it. It's everything about her creation, around her creation, but that hurts it, though, doesn't it? When the own titular monster, rival monster, it's barely there except for 2 fights.
Yeah.
Now, we get introduced to Mickey. We have one of the most chilling moments with kids.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
What did you dream? Yay! Like,
Oh,
crap.
there's a moment of mood whiplash.
I know, they're saying yay, and they're showing off these cutesy Godzilla images. You hear the Godzilla march, but you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you had this very interesting political drama going on, with this Middle Eastern type of guy wanting the oil, wanting the Godzilla cells and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, when you see about Godzilla cells, if they were that powerful, there would be a bit of a mini war going on trying to gather them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much alike. The Super X2, though, by comparison, compared to its older and younger sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, it's a good movie. It's a great movie, but when you could look around and compare it to so many other things, the flaws are starting to become more apparent with time, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
So after this one, we're getting into GMK, Godzilla, Masra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack.
What
From
a
the guy.
mouthful of a title!
Oh, no shit. But yeah, and then you had basically, oh lord, this is what you get when you put the guy who did the Heisei Gamera movies in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can see it. I can see it big time.
yep, big time. But and here though, it is by far one of the most freshest takes until Shin Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Would you definitely agree with that one? It was definitely the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, for one, it's the original 54 monster resurrected by evil spirits kicked off from the Pacific Wars and everything. You have all the other monsters, but they are weak.
Mm-hmm.
Masra, weak. King Ghidorah, weak. Baggin, well, he was always weak. Sorry, guy. He was adorable, but he didn't even get in the title. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
That's a raw deal, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the title's already long enough as it is, but come on!
Mm-hmm.
But definitely had a very good plot, especially when you look at the message that's trying to go about how the youth seem to not care, and they can be very,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they wanted to drown a dog. I wanted to kill the kids.
Yeah, that's just so you know something's messed up with them.
Yeah, all because the dog saw them. They're like, oh, no witnesses. Yeah. You're just like, ah. But again, so much of this movie was so good. A very terrifying Godzilla. A hugely insane body count.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say Shin Godzilla topped it, or do you think this movie still topped it?
I think this movie had the most on-screen deaths, actually.
That's that poor girl in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Again, she's like,
Yeah, talk about a slap to the face.
I know, and she already survived him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all those people who are running from him before he nukes them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, seriously, such a great movie that I wish it didn't end with a he could return moment. That felt a little tacked on, just like his return at the very end of Megagodzilla. I think that was Toho saying, oh, you can't keep him absolutely dead.
Yeah.
They should just let him stay dead. Have it be Humanity 1. Definitely one of the most clever ways of taking him out. But yeah, after this one, it's Terror of Mechagodzilla. The second, one of the best human plots.
Oh, yeah.
It's, what else can be said, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, seriously, now, the monster fights, are not the greatest. By comparison, I mean. Hondo's done a lot better. But the human plot made up for a lot of it. Titanosaurus felt so bad for the guy. And especially at the end. Because he was basically saying, this'll teach you for getting brainwashed. I wanted to say, fuck you, Big G, fuck you! Because he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that, but he got it anyway. Mechagodzilla was weaker, but again, that human plot made up for so much. And just seeing Godzilla back to full form, being the aggressor, being the badass, being so powerful. Wow, what more could be said, right? Next, it's Destroy All Monsters. This was our number one for a while.
Yeah, it was.
And it's a good finale. Would have been. This would have been a great finale. It is a great finale chronologically. I mean, but as far as a send-off now, since we've seen a better send-off, it's more generic. And I wouldn't say generic. What's the word I'm looking for? How would you describe this compared to the better send-off we would get? How would this one compare now as a send-off?
Formulaic?
Yeah, formulaic I think is the better one. They take out King Ghidorah, who had no right being there at all. They just needed a final fight. And who better, but good God, that wasn't fair for him. Especially when he was under mind control. Much like Titanosaurus, it's like, hey, what's going... Oh, shit. And... yeah, they all get put on an island. They all live happily ever after. The end. A very, yeah, like you said, very formulaic, but it was still a good romp, a great romp. It still is. It's still the best of the Showa.
Yeah.
You know, the alien invaders were very good. Second to the ones from Mechagodzilla. And just so much of it was just really well thought out that they went all out thinking this was the final movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, next, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla from the Heisei Era. This changed everything about the Heisei, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This basically sets up... They gave us Baby. They gave us a great Mechagodzilla. Mickey started to step up. Godzilla started to, you know... We had Rodan, a very good Rodan. The plot... This was originally supposed to be the final movie of the Heisei. You can kind of tell, but at the same time, they actually were able to tweak it so it could continue on. It set up a lot of stuff that would be paid off by the final movie, and everything was told very well. The dub was well handled. The characters you really like. Everything you felt bad for when they had to break. You know I forget her name now, but the girl who found Baby, who was there when Baby hatched. You know what I mean? All this stuff just accumulated into it, and great action. Just so much was top tier. I mean,
yeah.
Anything you want to add?
There's not much else to say.
Yeah. Although our next one, we cried at the next one. Godzilla versus Destroyer. Okay, you take this one. I ramble about the last one.
What a finale. What a finale. Holy crap. You had everything firing on all cylinders, and it was one of the ones that went right for the heart.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
When Godzilla's tromping around Hong Kong and he's on fire, you're like, what's going on? And then, everything, Junior comes into his own. Everything ties back to the original 54 movie. Everything does. Just had a fridge horror of what if Godzilla didn't exist, we'd be fucked. Because that Destroyer was coming regardless of Godzilla being around. And again, everything was Mickey and everything, and Destroyer was an incredible monster, wasn't he? It was like the devil had come, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
The music was phenomenal. Humanity actually working, trying to just stop Godzilla, and any idiocy they did, you understood because they were on the clock.
There's a ticking time bomb throughout the entire movie.
Either literally or meltdown related. Just so much was so good, and at the end, even beforehand, when Baby and Junior seemed to die, we were crying, weren't we?
Oh yeah.
It was just like, oh. And then the very end, Godzilla's death.
Oh yeah.
You want to describe it?
Yep, just... They tried to put it off for as long as they could, but, well, the time was up.
And the melt, him seeing his face melt as his skin just... And that last roar of his.
Oh, yeah.
That sounded like such pain, didn't it? As his heart explodes before he just melts to a skeleton and then melts into a puddle of goo.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then, what happened?
Junior's up again!
And he's now replacing his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
That was so good!
Oh yeah, it's just we went from low to high.
And what a great moment to end on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the torch has been passed, and we know Junior is going to be a gentle giant. The future told us.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just felt so worthy of this. And this was one of the best send-offs. And this would have been our best movie if not for our number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
King of the Monsters from the Monsterverse.
Woo!
Yeah! This had everything! You could tell...
Everything!
You could tell these were fans.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was a fan, but they wanted to make this the best they could, and they succeeded. All the plot points were good. Everything was good. The monsters were great. You understood what they were thinking. Everything. It just raised the stakes. It was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
You had Masra there. You had Rodan. You had everything. Shirazawa's sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic. You have and Shirazawa in the original created the oxygen destroyer to stop Godzilla. What does this Shirazawa do? Plants a nuke to save Godzilla from an oxygen destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much of this. I mean, why do you feel this is number one? Tell me why you feel this is number one.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to really say that after we looked at everything else. They had a lot of base to draw from, and they basically just... Hey, they looked at all the recipes, they took out the best parts, and they combined that all into an ultimate thing.
It did. And now, again, Kong could have followed in this. It didn't, but this, I'm grateful we had this.
Mm-hmm.
This set a new standard for everything. Now, again, Destroyer is the best of the Japanese, hands down.
Yeah.
But this one is the best overall. Because, like I said, you could tell it was fans. And they just adored every bit of Godzilla as much as we do.
Mm-hmm.
And Bear McCreasty's music. Good lord, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, yeah, that's our top list of every single Godzilla movie, barring 98 and the anime stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that we're all done, now that we're all wrapping up, what are we going to do next? We're going to take a break from these marathons, that's for sure. I mean...
Yeah, I think we have a little bit of time to stew on everything we've watched.
We might do a Lord of the Rings marathon with another friend of ours further down the line, but that's like months away.
Uh-huh. But now... Well, we're going to have a while until we get another movie, whether from Japan or from the Monsterverse or whatever.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Why don't we write our dream movie or dream continuation of the Monsterverse ourselves?
Next video we'll be adding on to that, and you've been waiting for this one this whole retrospective, haven't you?
Oh yeah!
Okay, tune us in next time as we give us a little bonus video as we start the first part of what could be an ongoing series for us, where we talk about how we would continue things. Both, not only for Kong and Godzilla, mostly Godzilla, unfortunately. I'm sorry, King Kong, but also Gamera as well.
Oh yeah! It's about time that he had a reboot, and if they won't do it, then fine. We'll do it ourselves.
See you guys there.